Hi everybody, welcome to today's session. We're just going to hold off for a couple of minutes just to allow anybody else to join, and we will start in just a minute or so. Hello everybody, we'll make a start now I think, but this session will be recorded for anybody who may join later or wants to re-watch at a later date. So as the title suggests, today's session will cover the details of the application process for applying for both Erasmus and international exchange placements. So this is if you are applying for a semester or a year abroad as part of your degree programme, if your degree allows you to do so. So you do need to be eligible in order to apply for these programmes. So this is how today's session will look. There are a few steps to the application process, and I'm going to take you through each of those today. Starting with the initial promotion, then what you need to research, the internal academic school application, and then finally the application to the partner institution or host organisation. At the moment, I'd just like to mention this application process is generally used for study placements, but we are hoping to roll this out for work placements in the future as well. The first step, if you're interested in studying abroad as part of your degree, is attending a promotional presentation in your academic school. So during mainly the autumn semester, sometimes in the spring, depending on when you are applying to go abroad, you will be invited to a promotional session. So keep an eye out on your emails from your academic school, which will provide details of the session. This year, all of our sessions are being run virtually, so they can be watched live or watched back at a later date because we often record them. The academic schools often upload them to Learning Central as well. But in previous years, and hopefully moving forward, we will actually hold these presentations in person. The aim of the promotional presentations is to give you an overview of all the exchange opportunities that you have available. So we cover both Erasmus and international exchange and often summer programmes in these sessions as well. What we do within these presentations is we provide details of the partners that you can apply to, because each partner differs depending on which school you are enrolled in. We also provide information on things like the funding available, what you need to consider and how to research to ensure you're making the right decision. Generally then the application process, which is what I'm going to cover today, and things like how you can make appointments with the Global Opportunities team and get in touch with us. The promotional sessions are also a great time to ask any questions that you might have regarding the exchanges. At the session, there's usually a member of staff from the Global Opportunities team, as well as the exchange coordinator from your academic school. So you can ask questions generally about the exchanges or specific to the academic side of things. It's always really useful to get any questions answered as early as possible. These presentations generally take place around a year before you're due to start your placement. So, for example, those presentations taking place now in November 2020 are for students due to go abroad, usually September 2021. But there are sometimes different start dates. So, for example, if you're interested in going to Australia or New Zealand, the start date for that is usually around July rather than September. So just bear that in mind. Once you've attended the information session, you'll be required to do quite a bit of research, and you'll hear from us a lot saying that research is really important. Research is key because it's a big decision. There's often lots of choices, so you want to make sure you're making the right decision. The importance of this is highlighted all over the internet pages. It'll be highlighted as part of the presentations. Your school will highlight it. Because it's extremely important that you consider everything before deciding on the most suitable partner or potentially organisation if you're completing a work placement. So the first question to think about is, are you studying or working? Some degree programmes do allow you to complete a work placement instead of a study placement, so do check your eligibility with that and decide which would be best for you if you have both options. The cost of living is quite an important factor when considering where to go as part of your study abroad placement. You'll need to check how much the average cost of rent is, for example. Think about what type of accommodation you'll be staying in. So will you live alone or in shared flats or shared house? Will you choose to rent privately or apply for on-campus accommodation? So there's quite a few options, and the costs can vary quite significantly between private and student accommodation, as well as between cities within a country and different countries across the world. So there's lots of resources online that can help with looking at different living costs, but it is something that you really do need to consider before you go. One thing to remember is you will still have access to student finance when you're abroad. So whether you have grants or loans at the moment, you'll still have access to that as normal. But depending on where you go, so for example, whether you go on a European placement or an international exchange placement, any additional funding that you might be entitled to will differ. So you need to make sure you've got enough money to be able to support yourself whilst abroad. So European placements currently are able to provide monthly grants to students, and international exchange placements are able to provide a one-off bursary. So do bear that in mind when considering where you want to go. Something else to consider is the modules available if you're studying at a partner institution. So making sure that there are sufficient modules in English if you're studying in a non-English speaking country. You'll need to check with your academic school that your modules that you're interested in studying will transfer back to Cardiff credits. These opportunities are credit bearing, so you will need approval for your chosen modules. But be aware that you may be selecting from the previous year's catalogue, so module availability may be subject to change at your partner institution. As well as the accommodation options that I mentioned a little bit earlier on, it's worth considering the city in general, so the size of the city or even the size of the university or organisation as well. Some of you may feel more comfortable in a smaller city versus a bigger city, for example. And something that you may not consider, which I know I didn't fully consider when I took part in my year abroad, is the weather. So what you want to do is check both summer and winter temperatures, making sure you're packing the correct and appropriate clothing, because what you might find is some places might have much more extreme temperatures compared to the UK. You might have very cold winters or extremely hot summers, for example. So do make sure you research that as well. As part of the research, you can also be put in touch with students who have studied or worked in the same city or country. We can never guarantee that somebody has gone to the same host organisation or institution, but I know students will always be happy to pass on advice and tips if they can provide that for the same city or country as well. So a few weeks after the promotional session that we talked about, you'll receive an email with application instructions, and within this email you'll also have a link to the online form that you need to complete and a personal statement document to complete. So there are two parts of the application process, the personal statement and the online application. Within the personal statement, you'll be asked 3 questions. You'll be asked to demonstrate your motivations for studying abroad, the benefits it will bring you personally, academically or professionally. And the final question will ask you for reasons as to why you feel you would make a good ambassador for Cardiff University whilst abroad. So it's usually about 500 words, or maximum 500 words expected to write, but that is generally the personal statement, those 3 questions that you'll be asked to consider and submit. Once you've completed that personal statement, you'll be asked to upload this as the first question to the online form. And the remainder of the form will ask you for your personal details, your partner choices, modules, and ask you to agree to some privacy statements. And what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to show you an example of a form, just so you can know what to expect. So hopefully you can now see this is an example from the School of History, Archaeology and Religion. You'll have this blurb at the beginning, the deadline will be stated at the top, and you'll have the instructions on what to do. So just scrolling down here, you'll see the first question is to upload your personal statement, and that's where you'll upload the document. And then generally it's just your details, as I've said, your degree programme, when you're looking to go abroad, everything that you'll be able to answer pretty easily. And then this is what is quite an important bit of the application. So you can select your partner institution. So that will be your first choice destination. And then you've got your second choice and your third choice. For each of these destinations, you will also be required to submit module choices. So you do need to look at the modules as part of your research. So you've got your top 3 choices. We can never guarantee that you'll get your first choice, which is why we ask you for 3 options. And then just some information I've said about support requirements and sharing of personal data, because we do need you to agree to that in order to nominate you to the partner institution. And the last question there is just what language you would prefer us to correspond with you in, so either English or Welsh. And this form is actually available in Welsh as well, so you can change the language just at the top here, and you'll see the form is available in Welsh, all the same questions. Okay, so hopefully that's given you a bit of an idea of what to expect from the form. I'll now continue. Hopefully you can see the presentation again. Once you've submitted the form, so by the given deadline, so the deadline is stated on that application form as well as in the email, your school will review the applications. So your school makes the decision on the nominations and whether you're successful or not. Once they've reviewed those applications, they will inform Global Opportunities, so both the Erasmus team and International Exchange team, of the successful applicants. So you can choose between International Exchange and Erasmus, so you can maybe put your first choice as an American partner and your second choice as a Spanish partner if you have those options. So you don't have to choose between Europe or international when you're applying. If you're successful, you will then receive a confirmation email from either the Erasmus team or the International Exchange team, depending on where you've been nominated to. And within that email, we will confirm the next steps. So we'd ask you to confirm you wish to take part, and then details of the next steps. Applications tend to open around a year in advance at the start of your placement, as I mentioned at the beginning. So just to reiterate, if you're due to study abroad in the autumn semester or for the full academic year, the promotional presentation and the application process will usually take place in the autumn semester previously, so a year in advance. And similarly, if you're due to go in the spring, the promotional session and the application process will start the spring before you are due to go. For those going for the full year or for the autumn, the internal application deadline is usually set around the end of the autumn semester. So you'll see on the application example that I showed you that it may be around the 8th of December or it may be the 18th. Alternatively, it might be just after Christmas, so you might have a deadline of January. The application deadline is decided by your academic school, so it's different for every school, but you will be notified of the application deadline as part of the application process. Once you've submitted and the application has been reviewed, you're usually notified of the outcome around the end of January or beginning of February. So that the timescale can be quite a few months in between the promotional session and finding out, but it does give you plenty of time to research as well. As mentioned in the previous slide, you'll receive a confirmation email from Global Opportunities if you are successful. So this email will explain that you will be nominated to the partner institution. For any European placement, your school will nominate you directly. For international exchange, so anything outside of Europe, the study abroad team will submit your nomination. Following this, the partner will then contact you with application instructions. So once they've received notification of your nomination, they will get in touch with you directly. Although you've completed that internal application for your school, you are also required to complete this formal application to the partner institution and potentially to an organisation if you are looking to work abroad as well. So the nomination and application stage for the partner usually takes place between around February and April for those starting placements in September. But as I also said earlier, if you're going to places like Australia and New Zealand, you may start your semester around July, so just be aware of that. As part of the application, like with the internal application, you are often required to include potential module selections. So you should already have that information if you've researched it for the internal application, but be aware they might have sent you a more up-to-date module catalogue. Within the email that the partner sends you, they also will include information about accommodation. So it's important that you check all potential options and costs and apply by the deadline that they give you. On-campus accommodation at partner institutions can fill up quite quickly, so you'll need to apply as early as possible if you do have that option available to you and it is something that you want to consider. Visas now. So at the moment, only international students on a visa to the UK and students applying to study outside of Europe will need to apply for a visa. However, this may also be the case for students studying in Europe from 2021 onwards. The partner will provide information on what visa you need to apply for. And if we have this information, of course, we'll pass this on, but we are looking into this at the moment. In some cases, you may also need to evidence a certain amount of funds as part of the visa application, and this is very typical for international partners in the US, Australia and New Zealand, but it could also come into play for European partners, so it might just be something else you need to bear in mind when researching. But again, the partner organisation or institution should be able to provide you with all the information you need regarding what visa to apply for and what you need to do. Once you have applied, it's important that you check your emails regularly for correspondence from the partner, not only from them, but also from your school or from Global Opportunities as well, because we will all be in touch with you throughout this process. Further details about your exchange is then provided to you at the pre-departure session. So this session takes place a few months prior to the start of your placement. So for those going for a full year or autumn semester, it usually takes place between around March, April time. For those going in the spring, it usually takes place in November. It is really important to remember that although the Global Opportunities team and your school are always available to support you throughout this process, it is your responsibility to research and adhere to each deadline. Each partner, each organisation will have different deadlines, whether it be for the official application, the accommodation application. So it is important that you're on top of that and you know when you need to complete everything by. But should you have any queries throughout the process, then let us know because we'd be more than happy to help. So that's generally it from me today for the application process. Hopefully it's given you a bit of an overview of what to expect should you be able to apply. This slide now is just a reminder that we are running sessions for the rest of the week, so our Discover Global Opportunities week does go on until tomorrow. The sessions cover all areas of interest and they will be made available online for those of you who've missed any during the week as well. The schedule for the rest of today can be seen here, so you can see there's a couple of partner sessions this afternoon, and at 5 p.m. there's a Go Ambassador Q&A. So some of our Global Opportunities ambassadors who've taken part in these experiences before will be on hand to answer any questions that you have and to give you some student-to-student advice and tips. For more information about the schedule for the rest of the week, search Discover Global Opportunities Week on the internet and you'll get all the information. You'll also be able to take a look at our partner notebook as well, which will give you some details about each of our individual partners. As this is the first time we've run an online Discover Global Opportunities Week, we really appreciate your feedback. So if you could spare 2 minutes just to provide your thoughts, that would be really, really great. So please follow this link once you've looked back at the presentation, or you can find it on the main Discover Global Opportunities Week campaign page on the internet. But we would be grateful for any feedback that you might have. That is it from me now, so I'm happy to take any questions which my colleague Andrew will facilitate through the question and answer section. Happy to answer anything now, but if you do have further questions after today, please get in touch either by using go@cardiff.ac.uk or erasmus@cardiff.ac.uk. And as I said, this presentation will be available for you afterwards as well. So any questions?
Yeah, the first question we have is, I can hear myself again, sorry. Is it possible to be accepted by Cardiff University or rejected at a later stage by the partner institution, or is it a direct application to the partner university simply a formality?
Oh, you've gone a bit quiet there, Andrew, but just to check, the student is asking if it's possible to be rejected by the partner although you've been successful by Cardiff.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, okay. So there is a possibility of that. So when you apply and when you get the confirmation email, there will be information in there stating that your nomination and your application is still subject to approval by the partner. Being very honest, it's very unlikely unless you really don't meet the requirements that they need for the academic side of things, or there might be visa issues. It is generally okay for everybody who gets nominated, but there is a slight chance that it may not happen. But I don't believe we've ever had that in the past. But just to make you aware that there's never a 100% guarantee, but generally you should be okay. Any other questions?
That's all we have for the moment.
Okay. So we're happy to stay on. We'll stay on for a couple of minutes, have a think about some questions you might have, or as we said, you can get in touch with us after today otherwise.
We have another question.
Okay.
Is there an additional cost for submitting an application to a partner institution?
Not necessarily a cost to submit the application, but there may be some additional costs to consider. So this is an important part of the research, and all this will be highlighted in the promotional presentations. So some partners will have sort of enrolment fees or university campus fees, for example, that you might be required to pay either as part of the application or potentially upon enrolment once you've enrolled at the institution. But other things you would need to consider when applying are things like visa costs and that evidencing of funds. So it is really important to ensure that you've got enough budget to cover everything.
We have a general question.
Yeah.
Where can we find the recordings of previous talks?
So my understanding is they will be hosted on the Discover Global Opportunities Week internet pages. Sarah, please feel free to correct me if I'm wrong here, but if you search Discover Global Opportunities Week on the internet, you should have then access to all of the recorded presentations from the week.
Yes, we're currently in the process of uploading them to our YouTube channel. So if you'd like to check out any recordings that we have already posted, you can search Cardiff University Global Opportunities on YouTube, and you can watch some of the videos that we have up there. But as Kim mentioned, we'll be sharing the playlist to all the recordings on the Discover Global Opportunities Week page as soon as they're all available.
Thanks, Sarah.
We have another question.
Yeah.
Do you know the deadline for applying to the Erasmus program?
So the deadline will depend on what school you're in. So if your degree allows you to complete an Erasmus Plus placement, you will be sent an email with all the application instructions as well as the deadline. So depending on what school you're in, might be able to give a bit of an idea if you are looking to apply this year. Or alternatively, sorry, you can contact your exchange coordinator in your school. But generally the internal deadlines are around the end of the autumn semester, and then for the partners they tend to be in the spring semester if you're due to go in September. Otherwise they fall in the autumn term for those going in the spring. It's probably worth mentioning as well that even if you don't attend the promotional presentations, your school should still contact you if you are eligible to apply for these opportunities with all the application instructions. So it doesn't matter if you haven't attended, but it's really useful to attend the promotional presentations to get all as much information as possible. Okay, happy to hang on for a couple more minutes, but if you don't have any questions, feel free to leave. Said you can watch this back when they become available or get in touch with us afterwards.
We have a follow-up to that question. The student is from the School of Engineering.
You would need to be on, I believe it's the degree program with a year in Europe, I believe the title is. It may be slightly different. So that is a slightly different program. What you need to do is contact, who's the exchange coordinator, Alistair Breed, I believe. If you're not aware of who that is, please let us know and we can send you the details. Or if you search Spend Time Abroad on the internet, you can find the information by going on your academic schools page, and the contact details of the exchange coordinator should be there. But if you're not on the Year Abroad in Europe programme, you would need to speak to your school to see if it's possible for you to transfer. They would need to let you know if that is a possibility. happy to take more questions if there are any. Just give it a couple more minutes and then we'll end the session. As I said, you can get in touch with us at any point or find all the information on the intranet if you search Spend Time Abroad as well. Okay, so we're going to close this session now today. Thank you to everybody who attended. We hope the information was useful, but just give us a shout if you have any questions at all. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.